Well, welcome to Tim's Take, and today we have a couple special guests, Dr. Maryam Salahi, and she's in civil and environmental engineering, and her graduate student working on his PhD is Dibya Conte Dada. Welcome, both of you. It's so excited to be here because you got an issue that we're going to talk about, and it's a collaboration between civil and environmental engineering and CAFNR, and that's microplastics. But Dr. Salahi, you're going to give us a little bit of overview about the use of plastics that we have in agriculture.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for inviting us to this podcast. And I'm so glad to share some information with you regarding plastic usage and the impact on agricultural soil. So you know that these days there are lots of agricultural innovations because we have increasing world population that we need to address their demand for the food. So that's why plastics have been entered to the agricultural practices. We use plastics for different applications in agriculture. One of the most common usage of plastic in agriculture is the plastic mulch. I'm sure that many people definitely saw those black or white plastics around the plant like a strawberry, pumpkin. There are irrigation pipes that used for water conservation, and there are lots of other applications for the plastic in the agriculture. But the major concern is that what is happening to all these plastics after their use cycle or after harvesting.
Because we don't always get them picked up, do we?
Exactly. That's the problem.
There's always some out there. And when you talked about, that was like in our horticulture where the food that we directly eat. But I got to thinking about that on the way to in today. We use a lot of plastics in livestock. For example, when we make hay, we wrap it with plastic. And this summer I was out in my pasture where I feed my livestock. I was shocked how much plastic is on the ground that I miss when I'm pulling it off to feed the hay. We also are using it in our grain production. You know, plastic is everywhere when we stop and think about it, and even in the home use, because you talked about like in our food production, but when we buy plants, they're in plastic.
Exactly, and we have lots of packaging material.
Yes.
All of those. So
what happens to all that? It just stays in the soil. If we don't get it, pick it up and do something with it, it's just going to stay in the soil. And the grass just going to talk a little bit more about that. But let's talk a little bit about the whole issue of plastic, because there are some alternatives, I suppose. We could use more organic forms of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from my own experience, like with hay, we used to wrap it with a sisal, which is organic, but it rots. And I was so excited when we started using plastic twine.
Exactly. The main motive for using the plastic is that they have good properties. They are long lasting. It's easy to use them. But the main issue is that it's almost impossible to collect all of the plastic from the farmland after we are using those. It's impossible to get them out of the soil, and gradually, year after year, we are accumulating all of this plastic in our soil. So what's happening to all these plastics over there?
Yeah, because they keep getting chopped up smaller and smaller and smaller.
Exactly. So that's why they get fragmented. They get converted to the smaller and smaller particles that we call them microplastics, nanoplastics. They are smaller than 5 millimeter. They are tiny. So that's why it's very easy for them to get transported. For example, if we have the rain event, so we have the storm water, they just, get into the storm water and get transported to the lake or river around the farm. Or they can, with wind, they can be transported to the surrounding environment. Or even when they are so tiny, they can penetrate into the soil column as well.
So they could be everywhere then.
Exactly.
And they'll move off target.
Exactly.
Which is a huge issue in itself. So when did we start using so much plastic? Is that just something gradual or
Exactly. So it has started since the mid 20th century, so 1950, around that time, and by replacing the covers for the greenhouses, instead using plastic instead of the glass for the greenhouses, and then we have the plastic mulch. So gradually usage of plastic expanded, and we use them for different practices. One of the major consumption of plastic is for the drip irrigation. So we can use the water very efficiently when we are conducting drip irrigation. But the point is that these plastics, after they don't last long. So after some time, they are going to be degraded, converted to the small particles, and they just remain in the soil. It's difficult to recover all of those out of the soil.
I can attest to that. And now some of our research is that we're burying the plastic under the ground, so we can use it multiple years, but getting it out is going to be almost impossible. Exactly. So now we already have it 6 inches under the ground. So that's going to be an issue in itself. And as we'll talk about here in a minute, it has some adverse effects.
Definitely, plastic itself is going to convert it to the small pieces and distributed into the soil, or later be transported to the water. In addition to that, there are some additives in this plastic that they can be leached out of the plastic into the soil, and they could be toxic.
Oh. So that's going to be even a different subject. Just talk about those additives that they're there. One the big increase I've also seen is that when we use plastic on hoop houses and road covers, it's all plastic to help extend our growing season. But even those are hard to recycle because they tear, they rip, they get left behind, and it just starts growing and growing. Our greenhouses, we used to have glass greenhouses. Exactly. Yeah. And those would last 100 years. But it's the expense. I guess plastic is cheap.
Yeah, definitely. It's cheap and it's long lasting. It can tolerate many environmental, condition, weather events. So that's why, and it's easy to use those.
Right. It's easy, but it's not long lasting enough.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, anything else on the basics on just the plastics that we've seen, the rise of, and this touches all phases of agriculture, from vegetable production, livestock. I was just down in Missouri Boot Hill last week, and a lot of the irrigation is done with plastic of cotton and corn and soybeans, long plastic tubes, single use. They use it 1 year and then they take it up, and then what do you do with it? Can you burn it?
That's what
Deborah's going to be talking about. Yeah, all right. What to do with all of this? So, with Debia, let's talk about that. What do I do with all this plastic?
So, again, what Dr. Saleh was talking about, it's really hard to collect all of them. But whatever you can collect, like farmers, there are some ways you can. Firstly, they can pile them up for reuse. But piling up, it's not a good option. Because, again, the microplastics or that plastic can further degrade and move around into the surrounding environments, can contaminate the environment further. Another option is burning them. But
that's not good, is it?
That's not good.
Okay.
Definitely. Because whenever you are burning anything that's organic, so the main problem with that, you are always releasing some gases, toxic gases, and again, some greenhouse gases. So that's not good for the air quality around that. And some other toxic chemicals like dioxin, they can get released into the air and the environment and further harm the living beings. So that's a concern. Another option is recycling them.
Okay.
But the problem is recycling at this stage, it's still not that easily accessible, especially in the areas like remote areas. So it's really hard for the farmers to access those services and send them. And again, taking those plastics to the recycling services, it's expensive. So,
and we have different types of plastic, don't we?
Yes.
Like this water bottle, I believe, can be easily recycled.
Yes.
But it's a different type of plastic than we use in agriculture.
Right. So when we are using plastics in agriculture, there are so many types. Like we are using mulches, we are using pipes, so many things in there. So there are different types of plastics. And again, when they're staying longer and longer in the agricultural field, they're getting mixed with other stuff like sediment. You are applying pesticides.
Yeah.
Yes, you're applying pesticides, and there are some other environmental stuff that's getting attached to those plastics. So when you send them for recycling, it's again a challenge for the recycling facilities to recycle those plastics because they have to get rid of those extra materials.
Oh, and soil too. I mean, if they're dirty,
Yes.
Exactly.
they have to be clean. And if we use them in agriculture, they're not going to be clean.
No.
Because we have them in the soil and what have you. Wow. So, but we could use alternatives, correct?
Yes.
Before we start talking about how bad it is, there are some alternatives, right?
Mhm. So the alternatives, they're like you can use straws,
Mm-hmm.
you can use paper mulches. They're better alternatives. They're biodegradable. Problem with them is they're still expensive.
Mm.
So farmers definitely, whoever are concerned about the cost,
Sure.
they definitely want to opt in for the cost-effective options.
And something is about the performance as well. I was talking with the farmers and I was asking that, okay, why you are not using the paper mulch instead of plastic mulch? And they were talking about the performance and how long the paper mulch will, if they are going to last until the end of the harvesting season. So maybe if we can work more on promoting the quality of the more, environmental friendly options, we can encourage the farmers to use those options rather than using the plastic, because in addition to the cost, performance is a concern as well.
I used some paper mulch one time. I got frustrated because it wasn't. I had a hard time getting it to feed to not tear when I was trying to put it down. And like you mentioned, it doesn't always last quite long enough.
Yeah.
Whereas our plastic lasts a little bit too long.
Yes.
Now, there are some plastics made from cornstarch.
Yes, cornstarch and cellulose. So mostly those are used as biodegradable plastic products. Like those are used for making biodegradable plastics. So that's another thing that's being tested for agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, they're useful, biodegradable. They break down comparatively faster compared to the conventional plastics that are produced from the petroleums and stuff. So the point is here that biodegradable plastics are good alternatives, but they have been tested mostly on lab scale. One problem is that in agricultural field or in the natural environment, the condition might be really very different from the lab scale because
sure.
you're running the experiment under controlled conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But in the agricultural field, there can be, like, depending on the agricultural field, there can be varied types of soil. Their moisture capacity could be different. Their water holding capacity could be different. The microbes that are living in those soils, they could be widely variable. And the sunlight the agricultural field gets. So there are so many factors in there that is really hard to simulate in the laboratory conditions. So I'd say we still don't know much how those biodegradable plastic will interact in the natural environment, and it could lead to incomplete degradation of those plastics. And if it does not degrade completely, then again the same problems as the conventional plastic
really?
stays. Yeah.
But at least we know that the impacts would be definitely less than the
Less.
synthetic
Less.
plastic. So if we use the biodegradable plastic, the concern is less because the impact would be less. At least they are going to go away, earlier.
But it probably still takes some petroleum to make that biodegradable.
Biodegradable, they are using some natural sources or something that can be degraded by microorganisms that are present in the environment.
But it still may take energy to make that.
Definitely.
How often can this plastic be recycled? Can it be recycled forever? Or if I take it to the recycling plant, does it eventually start losing some of its properties?
So I'm not sure. I haven't, worked on
Sure.
recycling. It's out of my area. But generally, when we have the thermoplastic, the plastics that they get melted with temperature, we can recycle those. Generally.
Over the weekend I was at my daughter's, and she's a millennial, and I said something about plastic bags. She said, I don't use plastic bags. We use bag,
reusable,
reusable bags, and or the kids' lunches go in the reusable containers. Yes, so that's one of the biggest ways right there that we can cut down on that, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. For me, I started using those glass containers for bringing my lunch to the office. I used to use plastics, but again, there is impact. So I definitely avoid those.
And eventually they will be, the plastic containers will eventually have to be, something has to be done to them.
Yes.
Because it will. So not only are we in our food production, but we're also post-food production when we consume it ourselves. Now, you've got some examples of where we see some plastics.
Yeah, something that we haven't discussed is the slow release or control release fertilizer. And actually, some of those they have some plastic in their coating. So, see, these are the preels for the slow release fertilizer, and in their coating there are some of those, they have some plastic. So we are adding those to the soil to release some nutrient to the soil gradually over several months, and after they release their nutrient, we have this coating that they call that micro capsules. So these micro capsules is just stay in the soil, and they have some plastic as well. And the recovery is almost impossible because these are just some small preels and they distribute into the soil.
That was one of my biggest surprises when we started talking about this subject, that the slow release fertilizers has plastic in that encapsulation. That's why it's slow release, because we're depending on that to break down. And I got to thinking about it, when you buy a plant at a nursery and they've gotten some of these slow release, and I've always looked at little empty caplets, because that's why I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the plastic part that's left over. So, wow. So we got to think about that. Even every stage of production, we got to stop and think about what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And, these are so small. So if we have a rain event or a storm, all of these could be washed away from the farm and go to the water resources, lake, or somewhere around the farm as well.
And that off-target pollution, that's probably, that's really where we're looking at some issues that affects everybody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, oh, wow. Now, of course, paper mulch is an alternative to our plastic mulch.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. Now we also have some pots and such. Let's take a look at those.
Mm-hmm. So these are the plastic pots that they are used for the nurseries.
Everybody uses those.
Yes. So, but there are some options. We can use the biodegradable version of this. I'm sure. Oh, this one.
This
this one.
Organic pots.
Yeah, we can just use these instead of this plastic one to reduce the impact of,
and plant those
pollution
directly in the ground.
Exactly.
Sure.
And we have the straws here.
So, and these are some irrigation pipes that they use.
Yeah, there's so much of every stage of production we see.
Yeah.
A lot. So even if we're really good about eating our fruits and our vegetables, we'll probably have a huge plastic impact, don't we? I mean, really, we do.
Yeah. There is a chance because, again, Dr. Saleh was saying, like, those plastics break down into smaller particles that we know as micro and nanoplastics. Mm-hmm. So to comprehend like how small they are, nanoplastic, it's like 1 nanometer is a millionth of a millimeter, right? So
we're talking about a millionth of a millimeter.
Yes.
It's pretty small.
Yes, that's really small. It's probably comparable to some of the nutrient ions that plants can absorb.
What? So it's the same size as like potassium or nitrogen.
That I don't know, surely.
But some are nutrients in the form. Wow. Mm-hmm. So plants could take them up, couldn't they?
Through their root, it's possible. There has been studies going on, and they're trying to understand better, like if plants can take up microplastics and nanoplastics, and it's much more likely that nanoplastics can get absorbed through the roots.
But generally, plastic, when they are smaller, their risk and their associated, toxic impact is increasing, because when they are small, they can move easily, because they are very small. They can penetrate into the soil column, or they can just wash off
with the water, or just when there is wind, just wind can blow them away so far.
So we got in the wind at the nanoplastics.
Yeah. Wow. Or even microplastics.
Yes, microplastics.
Well, when I think about my lunch bag, I said, well, I'm recycling bags I get from the grocery store, plastic bags. But I use them once or maybe twice, but then they start tearing. So
you just throw them.
Right.
So it's just contributing to more plastic waste.
Yes, it is. So you really got to be careful about what you're doing.
Yeah, reusable bags are very good options for, grocery. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, what are those?
They're reusable bags.
Oh, reusable bags, yes. Yeah. Which are often made out of plant materials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or cotton bags, maybe. Those can be a good alternative.
And when they're wore out, they can be recycled or turned back into the environment some way because they are. And plastics, of course, they're petroleum, and they have a petroleum carbon footprint to make them too, because you have to. So it's a big issue. All right. Well, anything else we want to talk about on the basics before we really dive into what contaminants that the plastics contain?
Just one thing I can talk about, like food safety, as I was saying, plants, there has been studies going on, like if plants can absorb micro or nanoplastic from soil. So I had the opportunity to work on a study with Dr. Salehi where it was not on agriculture directly, that was with stormwater, but we saw that as the plastics age, especially microplastics, they can absorb heavy metals on their surfaces, like lead, zinc, copper. So if any plant end up absorbing micro or nanoplastics, there is a risk it can not only micro or nanoplastic is getting into our food or fruits or vegetables, there could be other heavy metals or other contaminants if they're adsorbed to the plastic surfaces. That's getting into our food.
Or if we're eating root crops, that could be growing into the plastic. So we'll pick that up after a break.